This morning I was talking to Jane Fonda about Barbarella, and I was a huge fan. I was a huge fan of Barbarella, and I'm sure there are many of us in the room who are huge. And she was talking about the fact that after the Barbarella days, she kind of tried to disappear that part of herself. You know, she wanted, and in some degree, she was talking about that feminine, sexy, highly, attractive part of herself. She said she just kind of sliced that part. She just became plain Jane, and people would take her seriously. And we were talking about how to, I think the stage of all of our lives is like the reintegration of Barbarella. Do you know, like how we bring that part of ourselves back in. And I'd really like you to talk about this little, because you've always been an incredibly sexy, out there, well, you have been, and it's been, and I know there's probably been times where you've taken criticism for that, and I think, would you just talk a little bit about how women can be in their power and be sexy and be feminine and have all that together, and what that journey's been about?
Well, I was never treated in the way that Jane was because of it. Jane had much, much more to deal with. And that's one thing. Another thing is that I had a strong class feeling about this that was working the other way. Because in my little factory working neighborhood, girls got dressed up at the drop of a hat, we went to school in long earrings, and we had all these fancy dresses, and then I got to Smith, and I was shocked because they had no pizzazz, at all. They were just so plain, and cashmere sweaters and little Bermuda shorts and everything, and I resented it in a working class way. What is this? And they were so appalled at me that they finally took a collection in the entire dormitory to buy me a pair of Bermuda shorts. So, in a sense, rebellion, I was lucky to have class rebellion working the other way. Do you know what I mean? It was just always clear to me that we ought to be able to wear anything we fucking well. But I did go through, nonetheless, a long period of purging myself of a part of that kind of upbringing, which had to do with dyeing your shoes on Easter to match. Remember all of that? And gloves, and all the things and waist cinchers. I don't know how many people are old enough to remember. And little hats with veils that had no meaning whatsoever, and. So to purge myself of all that, I did, like Jane, go through a period from the late 60s for about the next dozen years at least, in which I had one pair of corduroy jeans, one or maybe a couple of, and T-shirts in the summer, and those bodysuits that used to have T-neck or turtleneck. You remember those? And I had a favorite pair of boots, and I wore the same uniform for about a dozen years. Literally. And that kind of purged me of the dyed-to-match shoes.